Hey everyone, Joel Reads Comics here, back again for another supercut. Now, in preparation for the brand new Supergirl movie, I really wanted to do something Supergirl themed on the channel, only to realize after scrubbing through my decade-long list of comic videos that I've done over the years on the other channel, I have never actually covered a full Supergirl run. Yeah, I know, it's a little embarrassing, right, for someone who's been online for as long as I have. Then I figured, okay, well, let me do the oldest Superman thing that I have collected in full, which of course is the DC Rebirth Superman from Peter Tomasi, which I think we can all agree is absolutely amazing. But because this is comics, especially DC comics, oh no, I just can't start at the beginning for this supercut, because of course, obviously you have the Lois and Clark series, Convergence, that came before it, and also Super League, which is kind of the end of the New 52 Superman, and I thought to myself, okay, I can't actually do Convergence, and I can't actually do Lois and Clark, because I did those on Comic Book Cast back in the day, but thankfully, I actually do have all of Super League. This is the big crossover, big death of the New 52 Superman story, which will actually end up setting the stage and playing really big into what happens next in the DC Rebirth era, so I thought, you know what, let's put this together, and let's just, have some fun with this one. This is an era that I haven't revisited in a very long time, and it's, again, as I mentioned, an important era to understand what would end up coming next in Superman. So I thought I would cut that together for you. Hopefully people enjoy it. Maybe I'll do some more New 52 stuff down the line. I forgot how much New 52 stuff I actually did, and what a weird era this was, because it was Super League that came out, Darkseid War, and DC Rebirth, like all within the same couple weeks. It was an insane time, creatively speaking. So I hope you enjoy this, and if you do, I'll probably end up actually doing the full DC Rebirth Superman after this. So enjoy the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. I'm trying to get this one to, the point where I can monetize this channel moving forward, and you would be doing me a real solid if you did. And if there's any supercut you would want to see me do in the future, let me know down in the comment section, and I will hopefully end up doing it at some point. So until then, enjoy the video. Bye-bye. So as we join the comic, the story wastes absolutely no time at all telling us that Superman is dying. Yes, Superman is dying yet again. They even managed to slide in a cheeky little joke for longtime comic fans, wherein Soup says what if has become what is. Why is the big blue Boy Scout about to kick the can, you might be asking yourself? Well, it has to do with all the taxing stuff that he's been putting his body through over the last little bit. Be it the kryptonite chemotherapy he's gone through in the main Superman book, the big fight he had with the Kryptonian god Rao in the pages of Justice League of America. Ironically, he died in that issue too. And then there's all the negative energy his body absorbed in the pages of Justice League. Wow, you know what? I kind of gotta stop and give a round of applause here for Tomasi for tying all these seemingly unrelated Superman events together and reminding you that yes, these things all indeed happen to one person. Superman is understandably angry about this turn of events, but not for himself, not because he's going to die. He's mad because he's upset about all the good that he won't be able to do now that he's living on what is essentially borrowed time, and he decides that before he goes, he's going to set all of his affairs in order and be the best Superman he can be. First off, he pets Krypto, then he admires the brand new statue of Ma and Pa Kent that he's put up in the Fortress of Solitude. That's actually a really cool idea. How come he's never done that before? I like that tribute. Now, there's a B-plot going on through this issue as well that I think is going to become a lot more important later on. You see, a Chinese hacker breaks into the Fortress of Solitude's computer system and steals a bunch of information. No doubt this is not so subtly laying the groundwork for the Super-Man book that will be coming during DC Rebirth. Superman decides to break the news about his impending demise to his oldest and dearest friend, Lana Lang, first. She's positively crushed, and the two share a rather sweet moment visiting the grave of Ma and Pa Kent. But oh, the plot does thicken, because you see elsewhere in the world a trucker is beset upon by another Superman, a solar flare Superman. Actually, no joke, when I saw this panel for the first time, I legitimately thought that was the red electric Superman back again. Next up, the Man of Steel decides to go visit Lois. Things are still kind of tense with them, what with her whole outing his secret identity thing, but he figures with what little time he has left, now that the world already knows his name, he wants Lois to, basically do a tribute to him, to let the world know who he really was and the good that he did.
as only she could do as the journalist that she is. Man, have I ever picked an odd time to start reading main universe Superman. That's not to say I haven't read anything about Superman in the New 52, it's just it was usually Justice League or one of the other team-up books. Now he's dying, and honestly, I'm not sure how to feel. I mean, there was something about the characterization of New 52 Superman, how they changed a bunch of little things about him as a character that never really made him catch fire with me. Yet, with all that aside, I can't say I didn't like him here in this issue. He's treating his death like, well, a hero would, honestly. Now, the death of Superman is a story that's kind of been done to death. This story, even right here, has shades of All-Star Superman in it. But I'm very much interested in this idea that New 52 Superman won't be the only Superman showing up. There's the Mystery Flare Superman from before, and also Super League, this event that's getting kicked off here in this story, is also going to see New 52 Superman meeting Old 52 Superman that we've been following in the pages of Lois and Clark, and you know, that alone is more than enough to make me want to keep reading this book. So, as the comic opens, Superman is making a beeline for Gotham City to share the tragic news about his impending demise with his friend Batman. Supes picked a good time to drop by, too, because he's able to use his powers to help Batman win a fight against Tusk and his gang. Tusk you may remember as being an original crime boss created by Tomasi. In fact, this comic is filled with a ton of great references to other Tomasi Bat stories. When Clark breaks the news to Bruce, he is understandably quite skeptical about it. I mean, Superman can't die, right? Superman can do anything. Furthermore, given the universe they're in, people die and come back to life all the time. I mean, Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's own son, died and came back to life not so long ago. Why can't the same be said for Superman? The way he puts it, he did all the advanced Kryptonian tests and he knows for a fact that he's doomed. But before the big blue Boy Scout kicks the bucket, he wants Batman's help in tracking down Kara, his cousin, Supergirl. She had kind of fallen off the face of the earth in her solo book after losing her powers and becoming a barista, and now Superman wants her to be found so she can become the new defender of Metropolis and the new superhero for a new generation when he's gone. In a very nice touch that you may very well have missed if you weren't paying attention, Batman keeps on a brave face during all this news of Superman's death, but the second he leaves the room, he smashes his own computer in rage. Aw, Batman really does care, but he couldn't make it look like he cares in front of Superman. That's so sweet, in a psychotic kind of way. Batman pounds the pavement and eventually manages to get a lead on Kara's last known whereabouts. Unfortunately, when the heroes begin to stake out that location, they're attacked by the Four Pillars, Chinese Zodiac-themed supervillains. No doubt these guys are connected to the Chinese data theft from the Fortress of Solitude last issue and the upcoming The Man. Things get even stranger after the fight when Superman feels greatly weakened. His eyes have also changed color, becoming a very much more human shade of green, and he's bleeding. Yeah, his healing factor kicks in, but not right away. Geez, Superman, you had your regular powers returned to you for like, what, a week, and now you're already losing them because of death? Wow, you got a raw deal, son. As the comic ends, we can clearly see Supergirl is being held captive somewhere under red sun lamps that are draining her power. So, as the comic opens, we see Superman go to National City to save his cousin Kara. You all know National City, don't you? It's the city invented for that new Supergirl TV show. It would seem Supergirl was being held captive by the DEO. You know the DEO, those characters that appeared in Batman stories before eventually coming to prominence on that Supergirl TV show that's really popular right now. Well, geez, so much for Jeff Johns saying we're not going to let the movies and TV shows influence how we write the comics anymore, huh? Actually, I don't mean to complain. This actually ends up being kind of an interesting little twist to the story. You see, Kara wasn't actually being held captive by the DEO, they were helping her. As Kara says, when her cousin was outed to the world as Superman, it had a ripple effect in her life. Things got harder, she pushed herself to the limit, and to top it all off, her powers ended up breaking. The DEO and Agent Cameron Chase, again from Batman comics and from that TV show, were assisting Supergirl with some sort of solar therapy sessions that gave her powers back, but only in bursts. Before Clark can break the bad news to his cousin that he's dying, he passes out in midair, which means Supergirl ends up having to save him. From there, we transition on over to China, where Dragon of the Four Pillars completes his mission to Dr. Omen and returns with a sample of Superman's blood. Omen takes the blood and also Dragon's whole hand, which bleeds a heck of a lot. That doesn't really seem sterile. That seems like there's going to be a lot of cross-contamination going on there. But we're still not 100% sure what Omen and these Chinese villains are after. We can only assume what with the data break-in and now stealing Superman's blood, it can't possibly be good. Now, while all this is going on over in Metropolis, we check back in with that strange man from last issue who is calling himself Clark Kent and exhibiting Superman-like powers, but who also seems to have a strange split personality. This fake psychotic Clark attempts to go to work at the Daily Planet, which doesn't go well because Clark doesn't work there anymore. In an interesting twist, the crew of the planet doesn't need Superman to swoop on in and save them, they actually end up saving themselves. Lois earning major badass points from me for tasing the freak, not in my news house. Back with our two Kryptonian heroes, Superman has taken Supergirl to the Fortress of Solitude, wherein he more or less plans to hand over the reins, the mantle of Superman, to her. He says that while the road ahead will be rocky and difficult, he believes in his cousin with all of his heart, and much like how Jor-El was always with him, so will Clark always be with her. He also imparts some very touching words of wisdom, saying that even with Superman-level powers, he can't be everywhere on Earth, but he feels that the real good he does is being the ripple in the pond that changes the world, that changes others to want to do good, to want to do better. This touching scene is cut short by the appearance of Wonder Woman, who is kind of ticked off that Superman hasn't told her yet about his impending death, and she had to hear about it secondhand. Ooh, Angry X, this ain't gonna be good as the comic ends. So, as the comic opens, Wonder Woman finds her way to the Fortress of Solitude. She's angry with Clark over being the last one to know about his impending demise. Superman says that out of anyone he's told so far, Diana was the one that he feared the most. Why? Because, well, he loved her and had been in a relationship with her for a while, and telling her about his death would make it all too real for him. Now, I've gone on record multiple times about how I'm not a fan of the Superman-Wonder Woman romance, how it feels way too elseworldy for me, or how his relationship with Lois Lane plays an integral part in anchoring him to the rest of humanity. I'm not gonna lie, Peter Tomasi did make me feel for these two right here, right now. Much like Batman, who promised to do everything in his power as a scientist and inventor to keep Superman from dying, Wonder Woman promises to use all her magical abilities and call in all of her deals with the gods of Olympus if it means Superman will live. But once again, the last son of Krypton reiterates that this is the end of the line for him and there's no getting out of it. It's at this point both heroes get a call from Steve Trevor about the impostor Clark Kent that Argus managed to wrangle at the end of last issue. This fake Superman, who, despite the fact he's never really been given a name, I'm going to take to calling him Solar Superman, thank you very much, swears up and down that he's the genuine article and the guy we've been following all this time has been a fake. Furthermore, he says that if he's not released right now, many innocent people are going to die. Superman theorizes that the creation of this Solar Superman may in some way be tied to his new solar flare ability, and he thinks back to the last fight he had with Ulysses. And hey, isn't that super convenient? Ulysses just so happens to be held in the exact same Argus facility right now. Ulysses, for those of you who don't remember, was the original character from that Jeff Johns Superman run from not too long ago. Basically, he was a dark mirror to Superman. The Solar Superman starts flaring up all over again, and so Argus has to divert a bunch of their resources to trying to contain him. It doesn't work, and with their systems down, this means Ulysses is also free. Superman and Ulysses have themselves a knockdown, drag-out fight. Remember, this guy is more or less on even footing with Superman, or he was before Superman started dying. Now Ulysses actually manages to get the upper hand in the fight. Wonder Woman comes on in to even the odds, and as the comic ends in a shocking twist, Ulysses stops his attack, saying there's no point in him killing Superman right here, right now, because he knows for a fact that he's already a dead man. As the comic opens, Superman and Wonder Woman are joined by Batman in their investigation of the mysterious Solar Superman who escaped from Argus last issue. They follow the trail of the Superman impersonator all the way to China. Once they cross the borderline, however, they are intercepted by what is essentially the Chinese Justice League. These guys are called the Great 10, and they are not exactly too fond of the idea of American superheroes running roughshod in their country. As is so often the case when superpowered individuals meet, a fight ultimately breaks out. The interesting thing is that the Great 10 live up to their name by more than being able to match Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman blow for for blow. It's during the fight the strong man of the 10 Yeti ends up losing his magical medallion that keeps his bestial rage at bay. Luckily, Batman realizes this and gets the medallion back to him before Yeti can hurt any of his own teammates. Realizing that if they were up to no good, they wouldn't have stopped to help them, the Great Ten's leader decides to help Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in tracking down Dr. Omen. Apparently, Omen is also sought for crimes in her own country, so the Great Ten are more than happy to cart her off, but not before she explains what she's been doing with Superman's blood. It would seem this mad scientist wanted to take Superman's solar flare ability and tie it to a physical form. So far, these experiments have been nothing short of disastrous, with the cloned bodies lasting only about a week's time before dying. And figuring that he has very little time left, the solar Superman impostor bursts out of his tube and makes a run for it. The 10 tells the Trinity that they'll deal with Dr. Omen and see that she's punished for her crimes, but that they better go after the solar Superman right now before an international incident gets started. Now, I wonder, if you were a crazy clone who thought you were the real Superman and knew you only had a short amount of time to live, where would you go first? Yep, that's right, the crazy solar Superman decides to look up Lois Lane as the comic ends. So, as the comic opens, the Trinity is still hot on the trail of the solar Superman imposter who has been making no end of trouble for them all over the place. Unfortunately, while they try and regroup, Superman's sickness hits him hard and he loses equilibrium, almost crashing to his death prematurely. It's at moments like this I'm sure he's glad he has friends, especially friends with a bat plane. Now, where on earth could that imposter Superman have gotten off to? Well, it seems that he's checking in with Lois Lane. He says he's not a bad guy, he's just being misrepresented. Only Lois could truly understand him. Yeah, this guy is nuttier than a squirrel turd if you couldn't tell, but interestingly enough, he swears up and down that he's the real Superman, the one that everyone's been waiting for, and he can prove it. What proof could this guy possibly have? Well, for that we check on in with Clark White and his son John. For those of you who don't know, that was the assumed name of the pre-Flashpoint Old 52 Superman when he jumped Earths at the end of Convergence. As we join the White family, they're enjoying a nice round of breakfast for dinner. Breakfast for dinner, you know you're living large when Solar Superman and his hostage Lois Lane end up crashing the party. As you might have guessed, this is a very awkward situation for everyone involved. Jonathan White trying really hard to stay off the superhero community's radar in this world, and Lois freaked out at the idea that an otherworldly version of herself had a kid with Clark. For those who haven't been reading the Lois and Clark book, and really shame on you if you haven't, it's been absolutely awesome, and Tomasi does a great job writing this more classic version of Superman. He also takes me in a pretty interesting direction. You see, once this Superman feels that his son's life is in danger, he doesn't quite threaten, because Superman would never threaten, but you really get the feeling with his body language that if Solar Superman were to come anywhere near his son, he would totally mess up his day. In a move that will surprise absolutely no one, a fight breaks out. Luckily, the commotion alerts Batman and the rest of the Trinity, who are able to locate their position. And from there, well, the awkward hits just keep on coming, because the Trinity had no idea there was another Superman living in this Earth, and now the cat is completely and utterly out of the bag, so much to the point that Jonathan White pretty much grabs his family and flies away with them. The comic ends with the Solar Superman at the height of his delusion going, "Oh, you're all here now, so is this when you're going to invite me to join the Justice League? Well, So as the comic opens up, the Solar Superman is letting the Trinity absolutely have it with both barrels. And man, you know, the art style has changed subtly between this whole Super League event and issue to issue, but I gotta say, I am loving what the art team does here in this issue. It's a little sleek, a little anime, but still very much superhero comics. It's just an all-out vicious attack that's being rained down on our heroes, and they're just able to withstand it, where still Superman has to go out of his way to protect Lois, who is still trapped in the line of fire. Superman, fearing that this may very well be the last thing he does before his death, decides that as long as he's still alive and kicking no one, and he means no one, is going to disgrace the S-Shield. Now, where did Clark White, the pre-Flashpoint Superman, get off to, you might be wondering? Well, he picked up his family and took them all the way to the secret Fortress of Solitude. What makes the secret Fortress of Solitude different than the Fortress of Solitude? Well, it's super secret, don't you know? So secret, in fact, that not even pre-Flashpoint Lois knew about it. Oh, you you wascally wabbit there, Clark White. You're gonna have some explaining to do. Batman manages to whisk Lois Lane away from the fight, not a moment too soon either, as she figures that this is a perfect opportunity for all the news cameras to come on down and gawk at the two Supermen fighting each other. Now, Lois, we all just got over the fact that you outed Superman's secret identity, and we're all ready to forgive you now in light of his death. Don't go blowing it or anything. Actually, I gotta admit, this is a pretty funny scene of the two of them flying in close quarters together. Turns out Lois is not a good passenger. Back in the fight, the combined force of Superman and Wonder Woman managed to beat the Solar Superman impostor so hard that he reverts back to his original form, which for those of you who did not remember was an oblivious convict. They think they may actually have won, and the Solar Superman uses this chance with their guards down to strike a very fatal blow against Wonder Woman, knocking her out completely. Solar Superman's form also seems to be quite unstable as he's growing more monstrous by the second. As the comic winds down, he grabs Superman and flies off with him, claiming that he will show the world once and for all that he is the true Superman and no one else. So as the comic opens, Superman is still duking it out with the evil Solar Superman imposter. Worse still, he's not doing so great in the fight. His body is quickly deteriorating pretty much at the same rate the Solar Superman is becoming unstable, and you just know this isn't going to end well. Surprisingly, even through all this, the Solar Superman continues to maintain that he is the one true Superman, with memories of Krypton, Lara, and Jor-El being raised on Kent Farm. In a way, it sort of makes him something of a tragic villain, and you kind of feel bad for him when the real Superman smacks him down by saying that he's an ex-con who was experimented on by a mad scientist shot up with solar radiation in Superman's own DNA to create some sort of horrible Frankenstein monster who, while they may very well have memories of stuff from his life, never actually lived it, and as such never became the man that he is today. It's at a moment like this it's good to have friends in high places, and especially good to have friends who have their own warplanes so they can drive directly into the bad guy. Even with the help of the Trinity, even with the help of Supergirl who arrives on the scene to help out her cousin, the hero still can't get a handle on this Solar Superman. Things go from bad to worse because, as we soon find out, defeating this guy isn't even going to be enough, because he's going to go nuclear very soon and he could easily take out a whole seaboard, maybe even a whole country. It's with that Superman decides to fly the imposter into space, even though he is slowly dying of kryptonite poisoning and every mile becomes an arduous journey. He is surprisingly helped in the end, however, by Clark White, the pre-Flashpoint Superman, who makes the scene and gives New 52 Superman the extra push he needs to get up into space. New 52 Superman is grateful for everything this newcomer has done, but in the end he ends up swatting him away back to Earth, saying that this was always meant to be a one-way journey and the world will need him as Superman now more than ever. The Solar Superman is about to explode, and there's no telling what damage an explosion like that could have, so what does our Superman do? Decide to take all of that radiation, all of that damage into his already damaged body. It's the ultimate sacrifice, and in the end he ends up saving everyone. Wonder Woman, Supergirl, and even Batman get to say a fond farewell to him, that it was an honor serving alongside him and that he was the pinnacle of what a hero could be. And just like that, poof, a legend ends and Superman turns to what I'm going to assume is stone, but I'm not exactly sure. As the comic winds down, all around the world people react to the death of the Man of Steel, from heroes to villains to even the likes of Lex Luthor and Lois, who was left with the dying words of Superman saying to tell his story. Superman number 52 was one hell of a goodbye story for the New 52 Superman. His tenure might have been a rocky road, there may have been more downs than ups, but damn it, in the end Peter Tomasi did what I gotta say no writer before him managed to do, and that is actually make me care about the New 52 interpretation of Superman. I did keep expecting there to be a bigger twist with the Solar Superman imposter, but in the end he was just, a guy, just a schlub. It could have happened to anyone, but it happened to him. And maybe at the end of the day that's why he was a perfect foe to challenge Superman and be the one to ultimately quote-unquote kill him. Not Lex, not Darkseid, not any of these other crazy villains, just a guy. Everyone gets their own little sweet goodbye moment in this issue, and the stage is now totally set for Clark White to take over the reins and become the main Superman, which that I cannot personally wait for. So as the comic opens up, we check on in with, you know what, honestly, I don't know what to call this character at this point. I mean, I was calling him Clark White because that was the name old 52 pre-Flashpoint Clark Kent Superman assumed when he came to this Earth. Earth. Only now, because what we learned in DC Universe Rebirth, the New 52 isn't a new universe, it's the same universe just with 10 years stolen, and also this Superman is the only Superman now. So maybe he's not even the old Superman that we remember, he's just from a universe that was very much like the pre-Flashpoint universe, and oh god, I've gone cross-eyed. Comics never change. Superman, I've decided I'm just gonna call him Superman, goes to the grave of the New 52 Superman at night. Apparently they had quite a big to-do for him earlier that day, and they're assembling a statue for him. Using his heightened senses, our hero discovers that someone is attempting to steal that body. That person turns out to be none other than Lana Lang. For a second, Lana thinks that this Superman in front of her is the one she knows back to life, only she's heartbroken to find out that's not the case. She's even a little mad too, thinking this guy is some sort of heartless imposter. Superman says that he's the real deal, and how he got to this Earth, that's really complicated. All she needs to know is that he's one of the good guys. Apparently Lana came here that night to steal Superman's corpse. No, get your mind out of the gutter. She wasn't going to do anything weird with it or sell it on eBay. She just wanted to make good on a promise that she had, and that is to let him be buried next to his parents in Smallville. The funny thing is, Superman isn't actually worried about the fate of New 52 Superman. The way he thinks of it, you know what, I died once on my Earth and came back to life. Why should the same not be true for this guy? It gets even crazier because he regales Lana Lang with the story of the famous death of Superman, his fight with Doomsday that tore up pretty much all of the city, and how both ended up dying at the same time, only for him to come back later in a black suit with a mullet. Ah, the 90s. It's funny, this is still Peter Tomasi writing, and yet here he's referencing a famous Dan Jurgens story. Jurgens will also be taking a Superman book in DC Rebirth. Superman recommends a trip to the New 52 version of the Fortress of Solitude, thinking that somewhere in the Kryptonian archives they will no doubt have a clue to resurrecting this New 52 Superman. Unfortunately, that quest ends up being something of a dead end, but Superman is moved to see that his younger self had actually made a monument to not only his Kryptonian parents, but his Earth ones as well. It's here too I'm kind of reminded that all throughout Super League, the New 52 Superman flew around and kind of got his affairs in order and got some people to, more or less take up the mantle and fill the role for him, like Supergirl when he was gone. He also shared precious few words with Clark White while he was still alive. He never asked him to take up the mantle, but now that he sees what state the New 52 world is in, he has to wonder that maybe he should come out of retirement. All Clark White has really tried to do since he got to this strange, different world that was like his in many ways but different in others was to keep his young family safe. But as the famous quote which is said at the beginning of this book tells us, evil only prevails when good people choose to do nothing. And so Superman helps Lana transport the body of her friend back to Smallville. He also swears to take up the mantle of Superman and keep the light of hope alive.